And you bang on time for Morning Prime. It is Friday, the 28th of July 2023. And I'm glad that, yes, you are winding up the week with me here on Morning Prime. Uongozi today, coming your way every Friday, where we slice and dice, anatomize, of course, the current state of play of leadership in the country. And we, of course, also feast on minds that are our public intellectuals on a raft of issues concerning leadership and also concerning governance and policy here in the country. But I need to remind you this, they said that lose an hour in the morning and you'll be looking for it the whole day. So make sure in all your planning you don't get late this morning. Even as you're prepping up, we shall be informing you on a raft of issues that, of course, is happening in the country. Now you're aware of what is happening regarding also the protest, and we can see light at the end of a tunnel. There are plans to be at the table. This faces that, of course, now Azimio is putting up a list, and Kenya Kwanza on the other side as well, on who will be sitting at this table to discuss the future of his country. But the biggest question is, how can we break from this cyclic motion that we've been having so far? Is it by having demonstrations every 5 years because someone is taking or having scruples with the results of the elections? Is there a way we can move forward and see also hacking back to 2007 where we had the Kriegler report coming out and saying this is the way forward if we are to come out from this particular morass? And why are this raft of issues that sometimes are drawn from very good intellectual minds, good intellectual provenance, not really shaken into place? These are questions that are being asked most times. But it's not for me to say. Our panelists are here, and we shall be looking at that and a raft of other issues as well. Within Azimio or within ODM, I should say, we have legislators who are seeking now to oust the minority leader. They're having scruples with his leadership in the House, and we shall be looking at that with the panelists as well, and a raft of other issues. So let's put this horse into a full run by looking at what is on the front page of the Dailies. We begin with the bold paper. This is what you're waking up to. By now you're aware on how hackers really ground to a halt the system in the country, paralyzed for almost 3 days, and that is the reality on the ground. That was affecting you directly, and that's why you are aware about it. And this is what is on the front page of the Standard this morning. Under attack, Kenya fights cyber hackers is what is on the front page of the Standard this morning. And we have, of course, information from the CS, that is Eliud Owalo, where he's saying here that there was an attack. We are addressing that. We're not just coming up with instant remedial measures, but ensuring that we build an elaborate risk mitigation framework for sustainable digitization. Services paralyzed, critical financial, banking and telecommunications infrastructure hit by hackers, raising fears on the safety of electronic information. Yesterday, the government assured of normalcy, but Kenyans are asking hard questions. At a glance, we can see some of these realities that we went through. A group calling itself Anonymous Sudan claims responsibility. As ICTCS, Eliud Owalo confirms the attack but says no data was stolen. Telecommunication giant Safaricom confesses to having challenges. Interior Ministry confirms momentary disruption caused by attempted cyber attack. And also we have the National Cybersecurity Committee had warned of targeted attack on critical infrastructure installations. E-Citizen platform through which citizens access government services was the most affected. This is what you can read all about inside the Standard this morning, tucked away, well laid out for you on page 4 of the Standard this morning. And just 4 weeks after President William Ruto launched additional services on E-Citizen, the platform has experienced a significant and prolonged outage, leaving Kenyans without access to vital services. And we have all that on page 4. On the sidebar, yes, I married an American, says woman in Nyachai case. A woman claiming to be former powerful cabinet minister Simeon Nyachai's widow yesterday admitted that She changed her name 8 months after his death. You can follow the story on page 3 of the Standard today. Also inside you have the Pulse magazine for the young and tart, Major in General. You can read all about it inside the Standard this morning. Looking at the teaser on top here, Ruto Raila team's lineup agenda for impending talks. That is also on page 6 of the Standard. And taxi driver speaks on day he carried Sharon's killers. All that inside the Standard as well. Inside Kenya's marathon team to Budapest. Read all about it on page 30 and 31 of the Standard this morning. The Daily Nation is up next. The church is back. The church is back. Question: current crop of clergy accused of taking political sides, turning sanctuaries into political pulpits. Voice of reason: Alexander Muge, John Henry Okulu, Ndingi Mwana Anzeki, David Gitari, Timothy Njoya. These bishops stood out as men of God with a heart for justice, fiery and fearless. They inspired public confidence while speaking out against government of the day. Some of them even had to pay the price with their lives. But this was decades ago. Now, after a lull during which the church has taken a beating from all quarters, a new crop of bold clergy is emerging. And you can read all about them on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. Some of the faces here, we have Nyeri Archdiocese. This is Archbishop Anthony Muheria saying, deep down, there are underlying problems that need to be addressed. And I think they're not being addressed. The plight of the poor, the cost of living, and the Western government. Also, we have immediate former All Saints Cathedral Provost Sami Wanaina saying, what we need from government are not prayers. Prayers we will make and we will do make. What we need from government are services. And you can follow this story inside the Daily Nation. In Mombasa, Archdiocese, we have Archbishop Martin Kivuva, who says both the government and the opposition have refused to face the reality, giving lame excuses for their grave wrong actions. And all that is inside the Daily Nation. The church is back. Ruto Raila MP clash over police brutality. House session to discuss the police clampdown on anti-government protest turned into a shouting contest between lawmakers from the rival Kenya Kwanza and Azimio camps, with one side defending the officers for quelling the demos and the other demanding accountability for the killings. This is on page 7 of the Daily Nation this morning. Cyber attacker as well. Kenyan suffer service delays as hackers strike. That story is on page 12. Corruption, water, that is Nairobi Water lost 10 billion shillings to theft and faulty meters. And also on electricity, save workers from high power costs. This is what MPs are urging. Union wants all power purchase agreements between Kenya Power and IPPs cancelled to cushion consumers from high bills. That is another story that you want to follow. That is, Kotu also has weighed in on this. The cost of electricity in the country, it is going way beyond the roof. And Niger coup, while leaders condemn power grabbed by Nigerian military, and how I stopped killer lioness. Read all about the Maasai elder narrating his encounter with deadly predator on page 3 of the Daily Nation this morning. The Star is up next. Cyber attack, major services ground to a halt. NTSA, e-visas, M-Pesa, Kenya Power tokens, services among those disrupted. And this is on page 2 of the Star this morning. State increased number of services on platform to 5,000. And you can follow that inside the Star as well. Now, there is this house help who is a suspect in the murder of Kilifi officer and who was arraigned. That is Diana Nailaka, suspect in the murder of Kilifi Fisheries Chief Officer Rehab Karisa. She can be seen here escorted to Kilifi Law Courts on Thursday. That story is tucked away on page 9 of the Star. Looking on the sidebar, Rhino reveals intrigues behind mediation talks. Details have emerged. Let me try and zoom in for you. We can read together. He says that details have emerged of the behind-the-scenes intrigues to end the bloodshed and broker truce between President William Ruto and opposition chief Raila Odinga. They disclose some of the global community's efforts for a ceasefire in Kenya. This continues on page 4 and 5 of the Star. Taxi driver tells court of Sharon's last moment. A taxi driver on Thursday narrated in court how he ferried Sharon Otieno and her abductors to a thicket in Owade, Homa Bay, where she met her death. Jackson Otieno Gombe was under witness protection for 3 years. He opted out on his own volition. You have the story on page 7. Also, there's a fatal shooting where Michael, we have rights groups demanding justice there for killing. Human rights groups have demanded justice in the fatal shooting of a businessman in Kiamaiko, Nairobi. They termed the shooting of Galano Hassan Yusuf extrajudicial. And in Kitui, agricultural show and trade fair is continuing. All that also is tucked away inside the Star this morning. Remember, every Friday you have Siasa magazine that ushers you into the weekend. Why 2023 may be pivotal in the history of people's politics. Why 2023 may be pivotal in the history of people's politics. This is Inside the Star this morning. People Daily up next. Hackers bring key services to a halt. That is what we have on the front page of the People Daily. And we have a massive raid. Pro-Russian attackers disrupt critical activities of Safaricom, top banks, immigration, railway, power farm, and block access to government websites, affecting operations. This story continues on page 4 of the People Daily this morning. And split in ODM over plot to kick out Raila Man. As I mentioned before, that is what is ongoing. Fissures are developing within ODM as far as the leadership of minorities concerned, and Opio Wandai seems to be the man who is in the crosshairs because of lackluster performance in the National Assembly. That is what some legislators are saying, and you can read all about it on page 6 of the People Daily. How county billions will be shared. Now there are some good tidings. Of course, their money will be doled out. That is 32 billion shillings so far that will be going to the counties. And hackers shake Kenya's digital financial system is a splash on the front page of the Business Daily today. Banks, Kenya Railways, Kenya Power disrupted. Attack carried out by anonymous Sudan as a claim, and we can see on the other side also Russians are being put on the table as a suspect. And top 5 critical e-citizen services that were affected. Business registration, you couldn't do that. We have also e-visa applications, driving license, insurance, also police clearance, cargo handling, and the agencies, of course, are on the other side as well. Payment via M-Pesa. Year to March, M-Pesa customers up handled 489.1 million transactions worth 1 trillion or 1.3 trillion shillings in the year of March. And of course, all the payments is also tabulated for you there, and the total given as well. Value of total M-Pesa transactions as well is all given here. This goes to show how Kenyans, we are heavily reliant on M-Pesa. And so when there is such an attack, it can actually put the country into a quagmire. And so we were in the docks as far as these hackers were concerned. So how safe are we moving forward when we are putting all our eggs in one basket? We need to diversify that particular portfolio, so to speak. Now, CBK is also consulting, or will be consulting IMF when it loses handle on inflation. This is the new development there. The International Monetary Fund has revealed a monetary policy consultation clause with the Central Bank of Kenya as it seeks to have a bigger say in the decisions taken by Kenya's Apex Bank in its fight to contain runaway inflation. Well, we shall be looking at this as well. And the ABL house dividend as profit falls to 12 billion shillings. That is the story that you want to follow inside the Business Daily this morning. I shall be showing you the editorial cartoons as well, and also other dailies that we have from Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda as well, a China daily, and also looking at the front page of The Economist and also the Newsweek as well. But we have our panelists already in studio. I just want to say hello to them, and we continue pace with our discussions here. Harmon Manyora, good morning.
Morning, Shruti.
All right. We also have Dr. Isaac Lua Green. Good morning.
Hey, what's up? There is a great agricultural show in Kitui, man. You got to go and visit.
I knew. Man,
Kitui. You just go and see Kitui.
Eh?
Made for good people, good things. Maji tu inaleta shida kidogo, lakini
atusalimie kwanza, achana na
maji inaleta shida.
Soon food itatoka huko. Good morning, Tibal. How you doing?
Kitui show. Yeah.
Yenyewe.
It's an agricultural show, but there's no water.
Yeah. Don't worry. You must get to Kitui.
Right, Martin Olo.
Yes, Dival,
it's good to see you. See, Martin Olo also now today I told him you'll be operating on safe mode.
Yeah.
You know, safe
the
mode.
Man is green.
No, the man is
Where?
You know,
Yeah.
He's in green.
No. Let me tell you what was happening. This gentleman has not slept. He's not really in bat an eye. Yeah. He's a hard-working Kenyan.
Oh yeah.
So I got a call this morning. I said, oh no, you're not cancelling on me. You're not cancelling on me. I said, I have not slept the whole night, man. Yeah? No, let me tell you what was happening. He was trying to resolve this issue of the cyber attack.
Yeah.
I'm actually making a curriculum for
You're making a curriculum?
For a master's class, and I was up the whole night. But I'm here. I was really... this gentleman should have said they were coming out of Runaway, but I'm here.
No, you can't. You
And
can't
I'm
run
alive
away.
and awake.
When you don't like them.
I had to wake up Armand Manyora also.
They are
It's
enough.
not easy. I sat here without knowing this guy was here. I'm still sleeping, man. This is an ungodly hour, man. I didn't know you were here.
Oh, you didn't know. It's too early.
This is too early, eh?
It's too early. But I know it's too early, and I want
And
to
people are
congratulate you.
blaming you. This panel is biased.
Which one?
Against
We
you.
That's what people are
get
saying.
bashed because
Biased against you.
They think we are thinking alike.
You're thinking alike, but I always say,
No, but if you are
where is
the
the person who will bring out the unbiasedness? Because I always seek out that person to come on this panel.
Yeah,
if
and
they're
say
there, they
where.
tell me.
Today I'll be the other side.
No, we don't take sides. It's just that
No, when you're here, I don't expect you to be biased. I expect you to be
Occasionally.
objective because you're a public intellectual.
Exactly.
You can't say
Exactly.
that Dr. Kalua is
But at least we
biased.
had
You see,
So if you're
the-
biased, maybe you speak for yourself.
At least we had to say it because that's what the viewers are saying.
No.
Which
no,
of yours?
no.
I've not seen.
If the truth falls on your side and you don't like it, that is not biasness. The truth just happened to fall on your side.
And in any case, Prof here cannot be biased because he failed to give us national cohesion when we gave him the job for
Yes.
more than 5 years.
And I actually
He
delivered.
failed us. We are still struggling about the same things.
Yeah. Because you
You've
don't
not-
like visiting history. You see, to fix the national cohesion, you must demonize what was wrong in the past.
That's why we
want to
put
do
you
that.
there.
Yeah, but nobody want to do that.
Fine,
I mean,
it's
4
okay.
years was not enough. Actually, that thing can only be done from the presidency.
4 years.
Now he's saying we should not have
the
given him
national
a salary.
cohesion, the national to create the climate necessary to cohere, okay, it needs to be done at that level. And nobody want to do it because for you to arrive there, you need to demonize the past so that you can create the future you want from the present. But nobody want to visit the past. We like to glorify.
But why should we visit the past?
Because the past is
you
evil.
The Truth, Justice, and Reconciliation Commission.
never- it
that
never
did a
even
good job.
scratched
Yeah, we
it.
should start with that particular
It
report.
did not even scratch the surface. I've read that report. They also trying to avoid. The way the team was elected also wasn't a team which would have told us the truth about the past. Okay.
All right, but there are questions as well, and I think
Personally, I think I achieved. Because look, we shortened the Tana River problem permanently. It used to be every year war there. The government is sending the police. We proved that the police doesn't solve political problems. Okay, only negotiations doesn't do that, or understanding the problem, then approaching it from socio-political direction, then you solve it. We proved that. That team proved that.
See,
All right.
Now that he's defending himself, it means that there's a lot that I need to accuse him of, but not today. Let's go on with our show.
But we need to accuse him as well, looking at the national cohesion, because there is a county revenue. There's the county revenue bill. There is a county revenue amendment bill that is being steamrolled also by Didmas Baraza, and the aim or the gist of this particular bill is to try and look at these particular commissions that we have in this country. They are the constitutional commissions, but there are other commissions such as NCIC which came through the acts.
Yes.
And they're asking, what is the rhyme and reason of having all these commissions? We have almost 15 commissions in the country, and some of them we cannot feel their import and effect. And they're still drawing from the exchequer. Can we maybe go back to the drawing board? We try and see whether we need these commissions on a full-time basis, because also they take a whole amount of of course, expenditure from the exchequer, right? Like you'll have your bodyguard, you'll have your personal assistant, you have your officer running. And having these commissioners with their offices is deeming to be very expensive.
I actually would support going to the drawing board, because the framers of the Constitution saw the independent commissions as fourth arm of government, the fourth arm. That would come, that would assist when other institutions fail. But then look at the way we have been populating these commissions. We populate them with the people not who are coming to uphold the mandate of that institution, but people who need a job. Because they supported me, during the election, or they are related to somebody very close to me who I know. So you don't get the right people in those commissions. The moment you have right people in those commissions are very well structured, they will deliver. And this thing started going wrong, of course, during the Jubilee. Because Jubilee was recruiting, Uhuru Kenyatta was recruiting for those commissions long before he advertises. When you go to advertise for them, he has already selected who is going to take.
Right, but the issue is not even about the human resource. The issue is about do we need some of these commissions?
The issue is the human resource.
He's biased because he has had some pay from these commissions, so he should not talk. Having said that, if we find out that he never worked very well, he should refund us as Kenyans our money. So we start from there, that we ask you to refund. But anyway, the idea about commissions, Dailies, is a constitutional one in terms of Chapter 15 of the Constitution. It does create a number of constitutional commissions. Now, when you look at the constitutional architecture in this country, the Chapter 15 constitutions are a hybrid kind of mediation between what you would call a typical separation of powers. So there's an attempt to insulate certain aspects of Kenyans' accountability mechanism in those constitutions. So it's part of the constitutional architecture, and to bring them down will not be as easy because they're tied to the constitution.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mentioned we have the constitutional commissions, but we have those that through the act.
Yes,
we have them like NCICs and the rest. That is only one.
It's only one, which is Act of Parliament. It's NCIC only. Because I think for some reason they did think it was important to put it in the Constitution. And that is one of the most important commissions. When you look at
just said it here, that you cannot, just like corruption, by the way, you cannot deal with corruption unless you start from the top. So to kind of outsource that to a commission, you're wasting time. National cohesion, you must pull
Tanzanians started their national cohesion and integration with independence in 1960s. And you can't tell me those people did not achieve the objective.
No, Tanzanians are not Kenyans.
No, listen. But they started early. They saw national cohesion as important very
early. They are Tanzanians. They are not Kenyans. Because their level of cohesion, national, using
because
language
they inbuilt
very
it.
high. Yes.
Because they inbuilt it. Cohesion is inbuilt break by break, like you are building a house. So Tanzania did that. We could also have done if the top was interested in national cohesion, okay, at the beginning, at the inception of the republic. But they have never been interested in national cohesion because it's the danger to their jobs. Okay, you need disunity here in order to govern. National cohesion is dangerous for your position as a Kenyan politician.
What the professor is not saying, which is true, is that we tried to create a poverty eradication commission and we had to abandon it because it never eradicated anybody's poverty. So at a cohesion, it cannot.
And even people are questioning why are we having a poverty eradication commission. Jesus said, the poor will always be with you. Beginning from that premise.
What you cannot escape from is that this so-called good constitution was made by people who are overly excited. and people also who allowed the past injustices from the past regimes to determine what kind of provision they would put in the Constitution. There are so many things in the Constitution that ought not to be there.
Like example.
But they are there because we were running away from our past. Now, when it comes to commissions, let's not beat about the bush. Most of these commissions serve no purpose, honestly. In fact, even the one for Teacher Service Commission, I've been debating with some people. Wherever there is devolution, you devolve education. The only reason why we didn't devolve education and why we trained the TSC, we want the teachers to vote for us. And the unions were championing for the TSC to be centralized and put in the commission. Because if we didn't do that, they would lose their contributions from members, because then teachers would belong to different counties. Now, having said that, we must admit that even where we must have commissions, first, must they have the 9 members or so?
Yeah.
The reason being, we are suffering from trust deficit, and therefore we put 9 so that at least we can get one from every region.
We have the face of Kenya.
You see, secondly, even when we must have them, must they be full-time? Look at IBC. There are very few places, I think, where an electoral body like IBC would need to be full-time, really. So there is a question of, do we need most of them? The answer is, we don't need most of them. Secondly, those we need, must they be as many as they are? Certainly the answer is no, because they are draining our resources. Mm-hmm. And those we must have, if we must have, must they be full-time? Then if you look at it that way, then it will drop some sense. There are so many things in the bar, like for example, look at the counties. They have a full public service commission. Mm-hmm. County public service commission doing what?
Public service
How many
board.
people do you employ? Some counties hardly have 1,000 employees. Secondly, very laughable, but very serious, that even the county assembly has a county assembly public service board. You know, I'm telling you, we were crazy when we were doing this constitution.
Is that a provision in the constitution?
No, let's say from Dr. We'll come to you.
Let me say this, Deba and team members. Commissions, boards, councils, all have a reason for which was found to be important for them to exist. Very valid reasons. But the most important thing is that the success and the importance and the achieving of goals of this is purely dependent on the occupants of those offices. Mm-hmm. You have seen a proposal today, and I'm talking about all these commissions, boards and all that. There is now a proposal from the Ministry of Tourism to have a Kiswahili commission or board
or council. Yes.
And I think it is very important. And for the purpose that it is being created is to create national cohesion, is to increase the communication between ourselves, because there are things that you can only communicate in a language that you have used from your childhood, and that important it is. You know, the thing of ukinipiga wanionea, ukiniacha waniogopa. That's the kind of communication you need for all this. But it all depends purely on the occupants. The reason for which they exist is definitely valid in one way or another. Talk about the issue of IEBC. There is need, I think, in my own opinion, that we need to keep doing a lot. The question is, why is it that whenever we get into elections, we don't leave out of the election, going out with our normal business as it should be? Mm-hmm. And that is something that should concern the IEBC every day. Are there things that need to be done immediately? Is there a constitutional change that must be done? Are these recommendations followed? Are people understanding? Is the education on matters of elections very well understood by everybody wherever they are? are people getting licenses and the so-called voters card in the way that they, there is a whole lot of work. But you may not be able to see it, and it may not even be achieved if the occupants are not taking it as a serious matter that concerns the nation.
Right.
Very correct. If you take that as an example, it has all the laws you need to make that organization functional. Problem is always the people we put there. Not the law, nothing. It does not need any additional law, because the laws are sufficient.
All right. We wanted also maybe just to take stock of some of these commissions as well, as we and see, yes, they're the constitutional bodies, but how effective are their role? It's good to question and audit some of these commissions.
The mandate is clear.
If they're delivering,
the mandates are clear.
Are they delivering at the end of the day? From your
No, they're
assessment?
not delivering, but the mandate is perfect.
You see what Professor is admitting, that even him, he was not delivering, and yet he was also there. If these commissions are not delivering, then there are the people there. He was one of those. So I still hold the view that we need to think about this.
That the team delivered.
The issue about this, Debali, is that I said that I didn't agree with Prof here, because when he's saying that we were overexcited, yes and no. Our history informed the things we were running away from. If we had not ring-fenced this constitution the way it was ring-fenced, I can tell you the Jubilee government would have changed it. I can tell you this Kenya Kwanza government would have wanted a different constitution. They would have loved the Moi constitution. I'm so glad that we have bulwarks. We have walls they cannot penetrate through because of the nature of this constitution. Yes, police brutality, yes, a little bit of force, but even that is illegal. Holding people for more than 24 hours is illegal. So there are a number of things that this constitution does that I could not have asked for anything else. So, yeah, there might be things in there that we could have done differently. Indeed, there are things there that were altered to the extent that there are some internal inconsistencies. But you cannot go to court and say that the constitution is unconstitutional. No, it is. You can't. You can't, because it defends and protects itself.
It is barred from being challenged.
It bars itself. So, with internal inconsistency, we live with
challenge.
Yeah, we live with the challenge as it is right now.
But you know what he's saying here, which is you pick some ones from these Kenyans, which is what is perpetuating our problems. He said a little bit of violence. That was not a little bit of violence.
Which little bit of violence?
So how would it be more? You see, no, he's saying the police and a little bit of.
Well, we'll come to it much later and analyze it. But still, let's just hover on the issue of the commissions, because also looking at the front page of the Daily Nation, we see the church is back. And there's the church is back, current crop of clergy accused of taking political sides. And some of people are saying, where is the church? Where is the voice of reason? And even the church leaders who are coming, they seem to be a bit biased, leaning on one side. I think Kaman was the one who was talking about our panel also being biased as well. So we're in line with the church as they put it here. Yes. But now they're saying the church is back. But looking also at the entire system of the clergy and what the Shakahola has actually brought to the fore, there are questions that are being raised, and we've had also the church leaders themselves saying that we need another commission.
Which one?
We need a commission or a council that is uncoupled from the registrar of societies. And even within that particular commission or a council, will have tiers as well on how the churches will be regulated. I don't know. That is something that is being brought out, was on the table of the ad hoc committee in the Senate, who are now investigating or looking at the issue of Shakahola horror. So that's what I'm saying. Should we go that way?
The church needs regulation. It needs regulation, but it does not need a commission. You see, the Kenyan church is a business.
Okay, I'll come to you so that at least we give a fair chance to everyone. Let's hear from Dr. Kalua, because I know he's a church leader.
Let me say this. First of all, service in the kingdom of God is very clear. Those with a calling and those who must do what must be done in accordance to the Bible or any other holy book, it's the Bible and any other religion, I mean to say, there is a clear guidance that the religion and service in the kingdom of God is required. The individuals vary, and interpretation of what they do is vast. When you keep to the word of God and when you keep to what the religion as it were and whatever else that is required in all this, every institution has its own constitution. And the institutions, when they are presented to the registrar of societies or any other council that's supposed to do, if people kept to those specific constitutions, because there is a standard, there is the Constitution of Kenya and all this, then there will be order. The challenge comes in because of the terrible interpretation depending on individuals, and therefore you deviate from your own constitution and therefore the word of God as it were, and therefore you now start creating a room and an opportunity for you. Because there is what is minimum as law and order, there is what is minimum as required in terms of values in the society that must be maintained. When you hear a call for this, I believe that there is a reason why it needs to be there and therefore needs to be interrogated. You cannot all at once take everything and say that the church is wrong or the church is right or this needs to be done there. So that generalization, I think, needs to be dealt with. Whenever there is a voice, especially of leaders, I believe that they need to be listened to, that we need to start listening to what they are saying. If there is something valid, we pick it up. But most important, I believe that order needs to start from the top. Every constitution, after 10 years, it comes to a point where it needs to be changed. It needs to be checked for us to move in the best way possible. Are there new issues? I mean, how do you deal with Shakahola? And that is a church, and it has a constitution, and it has leaders, and many people have gotten lost, leave alone those who have died, because there are many of those. How do you deal with that? Those are the new challenges that I think need to be institutionalized and dealt with from a point where no loose nut of a head of a person will be able to take us that route. And that is what we are grappling with, that needs to be dealt with.
Right. How long do you think the church has lost its luster?
Of course, you know, there are two, if you look at religion, there are two, basically two types. There is one where the man in the church is different from the man at home and the man at school and at work. That's where Christianity belongs. And there are religions where man and his life are one and the same, like Islam. So if you look at the church, there's no need of even trying to regulate the church in the manner we are suggesting. So there's no need for a commission. What should happen is we should allow law and order to prevail wherever we have church operating. So we are saying, if a church is making money because it's a business, we must tax that church. Okay? If in the process of preaching and doing whatever else they do in the name of God, they break the law, like Shakahola and the rest, we must arrest them, speedily charge them, and send them to jail. You see, if you are putting up some ramshackle and calling it a church, you must be subjected to the laws that govern construction of buildings. Otherwise, we leave them alone because they will die a natural death. Because you see, there's so much contradiction in the church today that certainly it is tied to poverty first of all, and then you add the contradictions. When something has inherent contradictions, the next thing is to die. The church will die a natural death. In Europe and America and everywhere else, you can hardly find people going to church because we seem to think the church is for the poor. Yeah? For the leave everything else for the kingdom of heaven. But here, you can be meek and humble and poor. You get what I'm saying? The church itself is engaged in so much contradictions that it will certainly go nowhere. So there's no point of coming up with a commission. If you have not understood me, ask a question. I can see you look, perplexed.
I see you are gazing at him. Because
let me ask you a question, please, Martin.
Yeah, because I think also maybe what you're saying regarding also the building, it will be very discriminative.
How?
I'm thinking of people who are in the slums as well.
Yes.
They cannot really come up with some of opulent and with the accoutrement.
I'm just talking
buildings.
I'm
saying that even them, they need a place of worship that they are comfortable with, and they feel this is a place that I can actually be at home when I go into the house of God to worship.
Yes.
So when you say we need to be having some issues to do with the building codes and following, and
there are many things including noise pollution, all those kind of things must be applied to everybody. I'm not just saying the church.
I think when we discuss about the church, it will be a whole Pandora's box that we can, because but I can see Martin, you wanted to say something.
You see, Dibal, I want this morning I want to really disagree with my good friend Herman here.
Yes.
The church has a place in the society, and the church has a calling from the Most High. Now, whether you like the church or not, the church is going to be here. And if for sure the church is irrelevant, then you shouldn't worry about it, because as he says, it will die or it will not be there. But unfortunately, the church is here to stay. Having said that, the other issue that we really need to grapple with is that the church does not need a commission. Neither does the church need even more regulations. The church belongs to human beings who are Kenyan citizens, who are also governed by the laws of this country. The criminal law justice system is there. If a member of the church, or if anybody, even a member of Mungiki, or whatever it is, the member of any other belief system does a crime or commits a crime, they should be subjected to the penal code, the system that is in place. You don't need a special system for the church. Similarly, you don't need additional regulations for the church. You do not want to tell the Catholics how they can run themselves. Their order is determined right from Vatican down to the village. And similarly, every other, whether they are evangelicals, whether they are Protestants, the Anglican Church has its own system. We know it. Of course, you can talk about the independent churches, but independent churches also have a history, whether you're looking at it in Western Kenya or you're looking at it from Central Kenya and so on. The point we are saying is that there are internal contradictions within ourselves. Very soon we shall be saying that even parents should form a commission to manage their families. Because the system of family management and order is known. And so the system of church and how church operates is known. So I have not understood why we do not understand the connection between Shakahola adherents and even the hustlers, or even any other political movement, for example. If people could believe this government, that they were in opposition and yet they were inside government, the deputy president was the deputy president of this country, but he sold a narrative that he was in opposition, and people believed him. If hustlers believed that this was their president and he was going to actually solve all their problems, there's no difference between the hustlers and the adherents there. Right. We have an inherent deficit, trust deficit. We promise people, we don't deliver it, and when that happens, there are no more laws to follow.
All right. So you see, we need maybe also to make it very clear that this is not the government now seeking to regulate the church, but the church itself, which are calling to have an office of the registrar of religious organizations.
And that's what I'm saying. It's not
instead of having them being under the mandate of the registrar of societies.
But the church is a society for now. What they are asking is that they want to have a special. I don't agree with it.
You don't agree?
It's not necessary.
It's not necessary?
It's
but
not
this is what the church is thinking.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm disagreeing.
Okay, you're disagreeing. Let's hear from Professor.
I think the point for us here is this headline here. The church is back. So you should ask where has it been? Okay?
That's a headline.
This headline is very apt because the church that is back is the church which was crowded out. There are two systems of the Christian church in this country. There is the mainstream church, and then there is the evangelicals. Okay? Now, the evangelicals part of the church is purely commercial. And this is the one people are calling for regulation because the spiritual is second on the evangelicals. They pretend more than the established churches. They pretend they are more spiritual, but all the operations, when you look at them, they are commercial. This is the section that went to bend with the government. That's why the voice has been missing. And this is a very large block. The evangelicals is a very large block, I believe, compared. The others are more established, but the evangelicals are fairly large block. So people are calling for regulations because it's very easy to mislead people with the religion. It's the easiest thing to radicalize, the term usually used to describe. It's easy to radicalize the population when you are connected to religiosity. Very easy. And therefore, that's why people are saying maybe just the way we regulate NGOs, we see whether they are useful to society. There has to be a system of looking how we are registering these organizations and launching them. Because I guess if that system was there and they were filing returns the way NGOs do to an organization, then it's very easy to catch Sakaola before it harms society. Okay? Because remember there was in Johnstown where some religious guy made the people drink college. They died, most of them. There's been several of this Shakaola type in the world. In Johnson, I think, was in Jamaica or somewhere like that. But there was another one also in the US. So those who are asking for registrar, or rather for a system where you can regulate the churches, I think they have a point. Because you see, the idea of purely spiritualism is a good one. But not all these organizations are in the spiritual business. I mean, most of them, you listen to them and you wonder why even people follow. But you can't question.
Precisely. There's a difference between the cults, individual cults, and the church.
That is why regulation. So that's why regulation is important.
But I think also you'll be misinforming the public when you say that we have the mainstream churches and we have the evangelicals who are purely commercial. What is the definition of evangelical and the mainstream churches?
Because
when we talk about evangelicals, your understanding of evangelicals, I think is a bit warped.
Yes.
Yeah, you need maybe to course correct.
Generally, the understanding of religion is warped. Because these are public figures, some of them are public. If you want to
let's just begin with the definition of evangelicals. What is your understanding of evangelicals?
The evangelicals, they are these hallelujah guys, televangelists.
because that's, you see now, you're actually on a very wrong premise. Okay, let's hear from Dr.
You see,
those are not the evangelicals.
Well, my friend.
And I I think even the Evangelical Association of Kenya will take special umbrage with that.
I want to request.
Yes.
I want to request. First of all, and with every due respect, the statement that the evangelicals are commercial and there is mainstream church, it may not be a professorial statement. So I want to request, I want to very humbly request that you withdraw from such a statement.
And we have another thesis and dissertation and the research that will come from the
professor. On a very serious note, I want to request
question is about the leadership.
Allow me to finish. I want to request that you withdraw that statement. If you have an issue with the church or evangelicals and all that, it should not come in this manner with the titles that you have. So I request very kindly that you withdraw that. I think what is
you understand
this
train of thoughts.
Yes. The most important thing here, it is the church leaders themselves who are calling for a commission, who are calling for a discussion, it may not be a commission. I think
they want the registrar.
They want the registrar to appreciate the existence of churches, and I believe of such religious organizations, so that they disassociate themselves from the shakaholas and all these kind of things that are very negative that Professor may
they want their own
alluding
office,
to without
registrar of,
generalizing. Yes. So I think they should be listened to. Professor needs to withdraw his statement, and we need the people of God, those men of cloth, to do what is expected of them, to do what is expected of the Word of God. And if you look out what the Muslims are doing and what Muslim stands for, it's so apt. There is no confusion in all that. But I want to challenge us as a nation and as a society. We have a very hidden crisis that is happening, and this is where leaders need to come in and deal with. And I want to appreciate that could be the reason why you would have a bird inside the studio like today. Nature takes its own direction in this way. And even if they don't listen to me, they should listen to the bird, because I don't know what it is saying. In the community today, one of the biggest crises, and it was so appalling this weekend when I met one of the principals of a secondary school, or a high school, girls' school. And they told me, you are all talking about LGBT, you are talking about issues of drugs in schools, you are talking about so many things. But the biggest challenge in our schools, and therefore our community, is broken families. And they gave, the teacher of a very respected school in the country was telling me and giving me examples that have happened in school. Students asking for permission just one day. Others saying that if I had a gun, I would kill you, my parent, because of what you have done. School children who were invited into Form 1, and they meet there from different families, and the mothers start fighting for more than 2 hours in front of a school of thousands of kids. There is something wrong in the society that our church leaders, our religious leaders need to deal with. It's a big challenge. And this is where we must put a lot of effort. If this regularization, if this discussion of having to agree on the registration is what must be done, let it be listened to, away from what we might not know when we are seated here and deal with. Our society, what we are seeing today going wrong, even in parliament and every other thing, it has all started with the brokenness of our society, of our families, and therefore these are things we must fix. Unless we fix these things at their foundation, we are going to lose our nation. And it is the church leaders who are supposed to be first on it. And I must congratulate the Muherias of this world, the church leaders in SEK church, the provost, and many others who are standing for what is right, calling things the name that they must be called, and calling off and directing leaders so that they can be upheld. And we must respect them. And we must never take anything for granted when leaders say, and let them continue. This is my cry, as I request Professor to withdraw
and I've told him not to talk before you
professorial statement that he had made earlier, and request him kindly to apologize. And I promise him that God will bless him if he apologizes.
In fact, Professor, this is very serious. Even we have the Interreligious Council of Kenya. We have the General Secretary there, who is Bishop Rari, who's asking for you to actually withdraw that particular statement. It says, "Good morning, we are disturbed by the pronouncement of one of the discussants. You should withdraw it."
You see,
there you go.
My
Just
comment.
Withdraw. Just withdraw.
My comment.
No,
let him be. Let us explain. Yes.
My comment is purely based on the fact that the Daily Nation found it necessary to say, where has the church been? That the church has come back. So I'm trying to explain that there is part of the church, because why this is because we have problems. And wherever we have problems, we reach at the men of God and the women of God because of the neutrality, to come and assist where the lay are failed. This is why this headline is here, where these people have been. Now, I explained that they disappeared because there's two sections of the church in Kenya. There is these people here, the one you are seeing here. And then there is the other side, which should be neutral and offer leadership when we, the lay people, fail. And that section went to bend with us. And they are not supposed to go to bend with us.
Yeah.
They are supposed to be men of God, see over us. When we fail, they come and bring us back to the straight and narrow. That has not been happening. Now, why? Because the majority honestly became commercial. And in fact, one of the things I've been thinking personally, one of the things I've been thinking personally is that it reached a level where maybe we should even have introduced taxation. Because the churches, when you look at them, they are those who do what the government actually does. They have schools, they have hospitals. Okay? So that is the social job. So they can take tithes in form of taxes, because that's what it is, but they return to society. But there is churches, and that's why it's a debate right now. And that debate did not start with me, which really needs regulation.
Thank you. Just a moment, we need to take a short break.
Tax. The church pays tax.
Okay.
Unless he has any data. If you recall, there was a time Sitam was given an award for being one of the most compliant tax-paying.
But Sitam
the church pays tax.
Church.
No, church pays tax.
But we appreciate also his thought. What he's saying is truly happening as well. There's a commercialization bit of it. Yes, and we can see even Sakaja right now wants to be taxing the preachers in the streets as well. When you go to Jivanji and Aga Khan, every
church
you should be paying 1,000.
This lawyer is misleading us.
No, just a moment.
The church registered under the Societies Act, or if they are, do not make profits, and as such do not pay taxes.
No, my friend.
They
pays tax.
They do pay. Yeah, the
church pays tax.
They do remit their taxes.
Nothing.
They do remit their taxes.
On this one we will battle.
I know we can be on this particular
Societies
issue for a while.
don't make profits.
No, please.
And
If you have seen even the finance bill this time round, it is asking even clubs to pay tax.
How?
It is. The financial bill is acting. But what he's saying also is not incorrect, because I have an NGO. It's called the Center for Transformational Leadership. And we always ask the government to give us tax exemption.
On what? Tax exemption on what?
On the operations that we do.
You see,
the churches have to assume they do the same.
Then we talk.
This is another conversation.
Have to assume the churches do the same.
But we're talking about leadership. Remember,
and
this
that's
is
why I think you are also right. You see,
so
both of you are right. both of these are right, because if you have to ask for exemption, it's because you are supposed to pay tax. So he is right.
On what? Because you see, this is an area that I have not just some passing expertise, but I live in that space all the time. So when you say societies don't pay tax, that's not true.
No, they have to ask for exemption.
What kind of exemptions?
Income tax. We don't have income.
You see, you don't have income, so you cannot ask for exemption on what you don't have.
We ask for exemption.
Do societies registered under the Societies Act, do they, in their books, declare profits?
You see, the issue about profit. No, wait.
No, let's just be straightforward.
Profit is a different animal we're talking about.
Tax someone.
Wait. No. What are the nature of taxes in this country?
Yeah.
Pay as you earn?
Yes.
All right.
Is that a tax?
It's a tax.
Is that exempt from?
Can you allow me just take a short break, because I know that one is getting deeper. Yeah, we need just to take it from the other side of a break as well. I think maybe we need to look at the regime of actually taxation as well, so that we know where does it really fit in. When we have the registrar of societies, are they exempted because they're non-profit as well? But also, do they declare nil in terms of, because we expect their gifts, we expect their donations, and how then do you also make sure that there's an accountability on these donations when they're declared? Because you are actually required by KRA, even if you're not making any profits at the end of the day, if there's a gift, so to speak, there's a declaration of that particular gift, isn't it? Right? Okay. Just allow me to take. Allow me to take a short break. No, we can't. It's 8 o'clock on the news. I need. No. I have. No. I need to take a break. Yeah, we need to take a short break.